Hi, and welcome to another episode of Needle Stack. I'm Robert Famosi.
And I'm AJ Nash.
In this episode, we have a world-renowned OSINT expert, Paolo Walcher. He is a global expert in security intelligence and an OSINT trainer specializing in Arabic, OSINT, and geopolitical risk analysis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Really glad.
So you mentioned to me that your interest in terrorism began as early as your first day of school, which for you was 9/11/2001. Can you walk us through how that moment shaped your path into OSINT and eventually led you to Arabic-focused intelligence work?
So, long story short, I also started my first day of school one day. That was 9/11, that specific day. And I was going to school like every young 6-year-old in Germany. And when I came back then after my first day of school, I wanted to tell my parents how great my school day was, but they were just hanging on the screen and looking at what was happening on the other side of the water. So I think back then I was wondering, why are everyone not paying attention to me? And why is the world so distracted on what is happening in New York City? So back then I saw the pictures of the planes crashing in there, and like it was yesterday, and I was 6 years old. So it definitely shaped my school time, but also me as a person, because I always wondered, why is that happening there? Then I grew up also, we didn't understand that the world was changing so rapidly. And so basically with 9/11, I saw the begin of OSINT in a way, because intelligence back then, the old school intelligence of the Cold War, didn't make sense anymore in this new digitalized world. So while I was going to school, I was always interested in politics, in Iraq, in the Middle East. And then I wanted to go deeper in there, what's understanding people, politics, security. So then I studied safety and security management in The Hague in the Netherlands, where then quickly I found OSINT through Vice that were doing reporting in the Crimea situation 2014, but also the rise of jihadi terrorism definitely confirmed my initial thought of, let's learn something about terrorism and why people do such things. So long story short, I really used OSINT already as a little child, listening to radio shows about the Middle East, Googling whatever I got into my hand, asking questions. And then I made my hobby basically to my profession. So then through my bachelor's in safety and security management, where I applied already OSINT techniques to real cases that were happening in Europe 2015 with ISIS. But then also with the rise of more and more online content on YouTube, on Twitter, I got really deep into it. And then I thought, well, now you're a safety and security manager, now become an OSINT analyst. So then I proceeded my career in Leiden University, where we started also from my academic side to use OSINT techniques that I already know. I was like, guys, I know YouTube. I know how to find these influencers there. They were posting videos in Raqqa. So long story short, after my academic education now in the Netherlands, I went then fully into the OSINT field. Corona gave me the space to learn. Now here, now an OSINT analyst, first worked for a corporate, using this technique for a corporate environment in BMW for global analysis as well. But then I was like, well, but I wanted always to understand why terrorists do these things. So then I ended up in intelligence, which is an OSINT, but also any intelligence related, also strategic training consultancy from Switzerland. And there I took over the course searching the Arabic web, not because I'm really good in Arabic, I speak only a little bit, but more to use this mindset, the OSINT mindset and the technology at hand to crack any nut. So once you know OSINT, any other language with a little bit of technique and methodology, you will crack it.
Because you were part of the generation that's always online, if that helped you, because you said you'd already knew how to look things up on YouTube, you already knew how to do the social media stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially an older generation is used to satellite images and really like the closed sources that we saw in the past in the Cold War. But no, definitely growing up with all these media, I always say I'm a good person, understanding both sides, the analog and the digital, because I grew up without a computer, first, second, third class, and then the computer came in. So I know what the classical intelligence looked like. It was also OSINT, not digitally, but looking at newspapers around the world. In the end, the CIA did OSINT all the time, reading, trying to get out what is in there. And I always want to say, people say, oh, OSINT is something new. I always trace it back to the attack on Pearl Harbor, where already the Foreign Broadcasting Service already picked up on weak signals of the Japanese. And then, the first or the biggest intelligence failure of that time, but also maybe the first OSINT intelligence failure, because people were not really sensitized to weak signals, and the Japanese people will talk about this online, not online, but on radio.
No, it's a good point. It's OSINT is not a new concept. We're just more aware of it right now, and with the technologies, it's more prevalent, right? So I first I want to point out, thank you for making me feel incredibly old for telling me how young we were on 9/11. I really appreciate that as an opener, Paolo. Hopefully we'll edit that stuff out. But no, I think it's interesting because you're pointing out there's a whole generation, right? 9/11 was a change globally in so many ways. But it's interesting to hear how it impacted you as such a young person, at such a young age, just 6 years old, to remember it and to have it, really frame your life into how do we better understand the world as, as Robert pointed out, a generation growing up 100% really online all the time, a very technical generation. So, now as you pointed out your path to where you are today, you're teaching this new course on Arabic OSINT. What makes the Arabic language investigations uniquely challenging compared to Western-centric intelligence? And what are some common mistakes analysts make when they're approaching these sources?
I think the first point is not really specific to Arabic, but I think the moment we go out of our comfort zone of, oh, we use English or German in our investigation, it becomes complex. The moment I throw you a document and it's fully in Arabic, you're gonna be scared. You don't understand anything. No numbers make sense. No structure makes sense. The script direction is different, and even how this language. So, as Arabic is a Semitic language, so it came from the Middle East historically. Also, Hebrew is a part of that. But so the grammar, the word structure, or vowels are totally different. So for someone like us, that vowels are really important for our names, for our daily life, and we write them. For example, in Arabic, we don't see any vowels, so you need to know them. But imagine having a word where you don't have any vowels. It's really difficult to pronounce, to even think about it. So take the vowels of any word and then try to pronounce it or to read it. It's like, how should you know that this should mean a specific word? So I think generally when working in OSINT, the methodology and the techniques should be there. The biggest challenge then is, just different sign, different input language, different culture, different norms, different place in the world, different people. And I think that's the biggest mistake that a lot of OSINTists do, or in general in intelligence. They forget that what we see is just an output of humans. Language is only an output. So if I want to find these humans, I need to reverse engineer basically and try to think, try to speak, and use the right word that they use in the specific region. So I think also generally it's the biggest bias to put the Arabic world or Arabic into one pot. A Moroccan person doesn't understand a Lebanese, and for an American, that might be, they all speak Arabic, but there might be more to it. So the detail lies in OSINT in a foreign language. I'm 100% sure everyone can use Google Translate and throw in some words and then use them in the queries, for example. But there, the nuances matter. Which word do they use in specific countries? What people are they? Am I looking for a person who is Christian, maybe in Lebanon, or Coptic Christ in Egypt? So all these cultural nuances matter in language, because language is just a part defining human interaction.
That's a very good point. And when you talk about the nuance in language, right? So I think people are quick to just suggest, hey, if you know a language, you can translate all those things, you understand everything about it, as if it's all the same. Listen, English, the Queen's English is not the same as standard American English, which is not the same as dialects within the U.S. If you're in the South, for instance, versus the Northeast, slang gets very different, right? So there's very different versions of that. I know German has similar things that happen, right? All these languages, there's a lot of subtleties. So I think you make a good point. If you're going to go down the track of doing OSINT research and you get a video, even if you're able to translate the video, if they're talking about, somebody's telling you this video is this horrible thing that's happening in Syria, let's say, but you're able to translate the video and go, well, hold on a second now. No, it's not. This slang and this dialect and this change in inflection, that's not how they speak Arabic in Syria. That would be how they speak Arabic in, Saudi Arabia, for instance, or maybe another country for that matter. So I think there's a lot to be said for that, and the importance of understanding the nuance. It isn't just knowing the language, it isn't just what Google Translate can give you, which is helpful. It helps us understand what the words are and what the meaning is. And, I can understand a paragraph, for instance, but that doesn't tell you the whole story, right? Language is a lot deeper than just the surface of being able to turn an alphabet into, words that are understandable, right? There's a lot more depth to the languages.
And that's how I started as well. So my course is structured in 5 different sessions. And in the first session, we do what I did on my first day of school. We go back to school and we learn the letters. And then we learn how to write them. And that's the moment where a lot of these people that I train look at me like, why are you doing this with us? Because I think we need to start really in the basic and then build up from there. So then I show them what technical help or tools they can use to translate and do better. So everyone knows Google Translate, but for example, DeepL, Traverso, there's so many others, also ChatGPT directly. But I think I stay really, I build it up. So a foundation of Arabic historically, and where does the language come from? But then I go into, okay, now we know good keywords. How are we going to use them in OSINT investigations? So how can we extract from topics that we have the right keywords to find the information that we need? So I'm basically mix the Arabic specific content, the nuances, and into OSINT, and then form something new. And then I go also more into people understanding social media. How does social media work? What social media platform are they using? How is media distributed? So it's not about language. Language is just like the carrier of all this information. And lastly, what you mentioned also, yeah, of course, the culture. We have so many biases around the Arabic world. And then I show them, about normal life. How does the Middle East look like? Do they have mountains? Where are the Christians living? Where are the Sunni? Where are the Shia? But just to showing also how diverse this entire region is, from Northern Africa, from Morocco till Iraq. That's huge space. And what you mentioned before, I think it's really important to really grasp the nuances, because, for example, disinformation campaigns or deepfakes are really, really bad in this. So by just picking out that this is just a normal hijab, and but the person or the video is played in Afghanistan, it doesn't make sense. So by even looking at other things than language, how are people dressed, how are men dressed? So, for example, based on the headscarf, on the color and how a headscarf is worn, so what type, you can put it into specific regions. And the same is, for example, with the GCC countries. Yes, when you think about Qatar, you think about someone with a white or red headscarf, and they all look the same, people say. But if you look at the nuances, someone from Oman looks totally different from Qatar. They have still the same scarf, but different technique of wrapping it. And this is just an example. Others are maybe easier for geolocation. Look at what signs are people, what street signs are in Dubai in comparison to Lebanon. If you know what infrastructure looks like in specific countries and which countries are strong in infrastructure and others are weak, you can even identify based on the pavement. You can rule out some countries. And that's just like giving you some examples to really dig deeper into the pictures that you see and ask yourself, what am I seeing? Does it make sense? And then simple Google searches can help you verify and even crack the hardest OSINT nut.
You may have touched upon it there at the end, but I was going to ask, if somebody doesn't have the cultural experience of being in Qatar or Dubai or any of those countries in person, how would you know to pick up on the fact that this minaret has 4 towers as opposed to 3 towers, et cetera, et cetera? How would you gain that cultural knowledge?
So for me, I visit the Middle East to really learn and see for myself, because it helps me so much to understand really a dynamic in a country. And this minaret example, for example, was part of an investigation I did in Syria, where you have some Sunnis and some Shia. I just wanted to know what type of mosque could it be, or even in what time. I wanted to know when it was built and try to get closer, if it's a new or old mosque. But if you think about, for example, about a mosque, what comes in my mind often is Hagia Sophia, a UNESCO World Heritage in Istanbul, right? It's a huge mosque, and for everyone who doesn't know the building, think about this building in Star Wars. It's also in there. It's a huge building, and it has like minarets, like pens, 4 of them. So, and when you know that Turkey is a Sunni country and Hagia Sophia is a Sunni mosque, you kind of remember the architecture is pretty plain outside, a blue or green roof. So I remember 3 identifier, like pen-shaped minarets, 4 of them, and usually one colored roof, and really no gold, no engravings on the outsides, just plain. And in comparison to Shia mosques, we know them mostly in Iran, but also in Iraq. They look like Baroque, like Baroque church in Europe. They're full of gold, full of side tombs, and usually just 2 minarets. And they are onion shaped. So they have like a little top onion sitting on the minaret, and that's how you can identify it really quickly. To give you an example, in Lebanon, for example, Sunni and Shia are really segregated. So in one region, you will only find Sunni and in the other Shia. And depending on what minaret you see in the architecture, you can quickly identify it. You can then look at a religious map of Lebanon and then pinpoint, okay, it must be this mosque must be in this area. And in that way, you can always rule out. It doesn't lead you directly to the point, but I'm just saying, beyond the classical OSINT, think about what you see and how you can connect to cultural competency in OSINT.
So, if I hear correctly, what you're recommending is that if you're interested in becoming an Arabic OSINT investigator, that you really should put boots on the ground yourself, as well as do the OSINT research.
Of course, often I ask my clients, have you been in the Middle East? And most of them haven't. And some of them have worked 20, 25 years in law enforcement and intelligence, where I'm like, I think you're missing a point there, because it would help them so massively. I can't expect from anyone to go to the Middle East and see for themselves. Also, the current situation that makes it a little bit difficult. But then just watch documentaries, watch about Jerusalem, even historic ones, learn more about the countries that you're investigating. So not everyone is using OSINT for security, but even if you are working in a corporate organization and you have assets or something that interests the business in a country, learn about the country, learn a little bit about the language, read a news article in another foreign language, and in that way you come closer to the reality that is really unfolding.
That's an interesting point. So, I mean, it sounds to me like you're talking about intellectual curiosity, right? Which seems to be a lost form among a lot of people, right? To take the time to understand, to me, it's shocking if somebody says they have been doing business in a country for decades, but they really don't know much about the language or the culture of the region or the country itself. That's I don't mean to indict anybody on this. Business is business, and things move quickly, and I understand that. But if you're going to be someplace for that long, you'd think at least you'd learn some of the basics, right? That's what seems like a lack of intellectual curiosity, which is really challenging, especially when you get into intelligence and research, where we look for that. So it makes me think. You've trained everyone from European law enforcement to corporate security teams. What are some of the key skills or mindsets that you think analysts need today to make sense of a world where real-time intelligence is really fragmented, more than ever probably, and incredibly misleading, with all the rise of misdis and malinformation, for instance. So what do you see as those key skills and mindsets that analysts should have when they're getting this training and they're geting better at this job?
I think curiosity and critical thinking in a way. So really question everything. If you don't have never heard about something, then first I always say go to Wikipedia, go to Perplexity AI, ask the AI or any information to summarize it in a way so you have an idea what you're talking about, and then dig deeper. Go to YouTube, go to other pages, and even Twitter. What I often say to my attendees in law enforcement, they usually have operational way more skills than I am, but I give them another perspective that is new for them. And what you said before, often these people are older. So since Corona, they realized, oh my God, the world is changing so rapidly, we don't understand anything. And all of a sudden, since Corona, not only the interest in OSINT of senior people increased massively, but also I think the respect of younger people who know how to deal with TikTok and Snapchat and so on. But to come back to your question, I always ask him, what are your skills? What are your hobbies? So another example is I'm an OSINTer, Arabic, Middle East always interests me historically, but I'm also a sailorman, and I've sailed twice the Atlantic Ocean. That's why my skill in understanding of maritime OSINT is there. I understand ships. I understand what the difficulties are and so on. So don't become a subject matter expert in anything. Look first what skills you have, what interests you, and then combine it and become subject matter expert. So if you would ask me about economics in the Middle East, I would not. I don't know much about it, but maybe I would specialize then in something that I know something about it. I don't know, agriculture specifically. But that's what I mean, train your skills. And I see OSINT more as a mindset of critical thinking and then acquiring tools in your tool set. And for me, it doesn't matter if law enforcement comes to me, intelligence, or a big corporation asks me, hey, we have a problem. And I come with my tool set. I'm like, yeah, maybe I can fix it. Continue working on your skills, and that is another language. But also Duolingo. I use Duolingo for Arabic just to practice reading. 3 minutes a day, done.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing it all correctly, obviously, that curiosity we talked about, right, and that need to keep learning and questioning things, which I think is great, and I think there's a lot of that. I think the lack of critical thinking, is a challenge, right? Our education systems in a lot of cases aren't designed for critical thinking. In fact, in some cases, they're designed for the opposite, because it's challenging to teachers if you have too many students that are critically thinking. So I think it's interesting that you point out the importance of these things. But I think, if I heard you correctly, the piece that might have been missed by some, because I don't catch it the first go round, is to not try to be an expert on everything. I mean, it does feel like that's what's going on in the internet, right? I've seen a lot of people that were experts on COVID, and then they were experts on, now they're experts on tariffs, and they've been expert on AI. And it's amazing how much people seem to know about everything on the internet. So, just one topic after the next. These people have PhDs in several topics, it seems like. So are you saying that maybe it's better to not try to be an expert on everything and try to focus in a more specific area, and then share with others your expertise and let others piece it together, as opposed to trying to be the expert on all topics?
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's it's a fair point, because they're popping up like mushrooms these days. But just knowing something doesn't make you an expert, and Googling something doesn't make you an expert neither. You really need to work and do the tedious work that takes hundreds of hours. But that's what I mean. I think we we make a joke in our company. There is something called ask int. So ask someone, because there will be an expert on anything. Like even just typing any name, ship name, even a plane code into Twitter. Someone wrote about it. Someone had it tracked, and someone. So then talk with him, get your human skills going, extract the information from the expert, and then you can put your OSINT investigation part that you added to it, and then it's actually new intel. But just like repeating and repeating without adding any extra information or knowledge is not intelligence.
I would say that for those who are on social media, if you're following somebody and they were an expert on a topic and then another topic and another topic and another, and those topics have nothing in common, the same person who understands deep economic structures like tariffs probably isn't an expert on nuclear science, and almost certainly is not an expert on medical science before that. It's probably something to consider when you talked about, that critical thinking and that need to question, right? I think too many people in the space are pouring too much information out there, and if it's the same voice with all these topics, there's a good chance they're not an expert on all of those things.
How do you vet the information that you're looking at when you're inundated with so many sources?
Of course, you can, depends how much time you have. Yeah. But what I really quickly do is what I mentioned before. I check these cultural clues. These are so hidden and so basic secret watermarks on original content, because, the scream of a muezzin call, if it doesn't make sense, like the times, you can verify so many things. And what I love to do is go away from the people that I see in a picture or in the information, but if I have a video or a picture, I look at weather. Like I do a quick check if the weather yesterday. So I had an example of a Taliban military parade, and it was unclear if it was from yesterday or the year before, or military equipment. Is this actual? Or so what I did is just check quickly where was it located. And usually they say military parade, Kabul, whatever, to a specific day. And then I checked the weather in the picture, and there was blue sky, for example. But then I check quickly, there's an app that is free. You can use it on the phone even. It's called Zoom Earth. So you can go 7 days reverse with actual satellite pictures, and you can do a quick review. Was there rain or was there cloud coverage? Of course, you can then go deeper, look for proper satellite pictures and the details. But it's kind of a dirty tool that quickly shows you it's used for weather analysis. But you can quickly show, does it make sense, the weather, with what I'm seeing there? And to fake these is so difficult. And so yeah, look at these little things. And then, the classical OSINT techniques, reverse image search with the picture, or who posted what, to see who did it first. Really try to find the primary source and then analyze it, and not what an hour later a small news channel from, I don't know, Africa said about this. So really try primary sources and then look for the hidden watermarks of critical things that are not human related or not manipulative.
So AJ and I have asked a lot of questions here. Is there anything that you'd like to share from your years of experience on OSINT investigations?
No, I think everyone should participate in OSINT. I think, and that's maybe something to find up why I actually came into OSINT, and why I'm why I'm doing this hundreds of hours for a case that is not really interests anyone out there. Is I think OSINT is the biggest tool to bring truth to people, because we can verify what they're doing, what's happening in the world. So in the end, see how much information you have in front of your desk. You can rule the world from here, basically, in information. And it's not anymore the CIA or law enforcement doing. Everyone can do it. And OSINT cannot be, yes, I use it for security, and I think it's a valuable tool to protect justice. When we're looking what Bellingcat is doing to allow accountability, and looking at what Bellingcat is doing, these are humans like you and me, from other backgrounds. the boss of Bellingcat Higgins, he was a public administrator playing video games from his laptop. 2015, he started verifying human rights violation, and that's possible. And we are 10 years in, so let's use AI and go full in OSINT. I don't really understand why we're spending so much money on all these fancy technologies when we have something already at hand.
That's a great point. Anybody can do this, right? We most anybody, at least in the Western world with technologies, right? We all have computers and a lot of technology available to us. The access is there for those who want to go out and take the time, to learn this, whether it's on their own or whether it's taking training from somebody like you, Paolo. So, with that, I mean, this has been a really fascinating discussion. I'm sure we could go on for hours about it, of course, but there's a lot more to be learned. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come on NeedleStack today, Paolo. Really appreciate you sharing your experience and your insights, your background, and just a fascinating pattern, or a path, I should say, from a 6-year-old on 9/11 to the work you do now, in OSINT, specifically, focused in the Middle East and the Arabic-speaking world. If anybody listening or watching, if you're really interested in the OSI model, especially that human layer that we're talking about, you can find out more about Paolo and what he's working on in our show notes. I also want to thank you all for listening and watching. Really appreciate you. The audience is what makes this show what it is. We do this for all of you, not for ourselves. So appreciate you taking the time. If you like the show, please make sure to like us and follow us and subscribe and give us all that feedback. If you don't like the show or you think there's ways to improve it, please pass that along as well. We actually do pay attention to those things. We want to make the show better every day. If you want to find transcripts and other episode info, you can visit authenticate.com/needlestack. That's authentic and the number 8.com/needlestack. You can also check us out on Blue Sky. We're at NeedleStack Pod there. And if you want to subscribe, like I said, please feel free to do so. So with that, until next time, I'm AJ Nash, joined by Paolo Walcher, whose name I've completely butchered, and Robert Vamosi. And I just want to say thank you all. This has been another episode of NeedleStack.